Hello, I'm David.
I'm Lucy.
And welcome to Tudoriferous, the podcast examining lives in the Tudor era. Yes, we have a proper, full episode today, but before we find out who we're covering, we have some patrons to thank.
Excellent.
Which is marvellous. In fact, we have 4
Wow.
joining. Yes, I know. Joining the Order of the Garter, we have Marbles Garbanzo, CYB, Joanne Spick, and Aaron or Aren. I'm not quite certain, but thank you. Thank you all 4 of you so much.
Thank you.
It is wonderful. We
can carry on. We can carry on.
You will have so many episodes listened to, including most recently when this episode comes out, we should have completed a run through Ivan III of Russia and his great enemy, and a bit about the whole Orthodox Catholic, oh my, what's going on in Cardinal Bessarian's episode, if you are a noble. So
yes. And a little extra one, but you'll also get that on the normal feed. So
Yes.
But you get it early on Patreon.
Yes. Today we are looking at
Juana of Castile, Part 1. And I'm going with Juana of Castile. I'm not going with Juana the Mad. That's not fair.
Good.
Yeah, she's been stuck with that for 500 years.
Yes.
I think, whether she was mad or not, we can discuss later, but...
Well, whatever it is, we're starting to the beginning of her life. So, I mean, she's no madder than any baby where it starts off.
Oh, I don't know. She's brought up by Isabella.
Oh, that is true.
Yes. Yeah, first a proviso. We don't know if Juana was being gaslit.
Gaslit,
Gaslighted. We don't know whether she was gaslighted or cared for by her husband. To our 20th century ears, it comes across very much as gaslighting.
Yeah.
It's quite distressing. In fact, the whole thing is very distressing.
Oh, dear.
At the end of the episode, we include a list of things to look out for if you suspect that you are being gaslighted by your partner, so you can seek help or get the hell out of there. That would be my advice. If you recognise any of those behaviours. So just bear in mind that this episode contains what seems to be some very heavy-handed gaslighting.
Yes, okay.
And unfortunately, because she's known as Juana the Mad, we will be spending at least part of these episodes finding out how likely this is. It seems a shame. I mean, it seems a shame to label her. It's one thing. But we're still going to have to talk about it because that is what she's called. So is this fair? And I have tried to be scrupulously fair in deciding whether that was true or not. Because what happens to Juana is obscene by anyone's standards.
Yes.
But we must decide whether people might have been doing this for what they would have seen as her own good. If she was severely mentally ill, there were 2 remedies, in inverted commas.
Yes.
There was quiet seclusion to soothe their rabid mind, and a rather more invasive, sort of knocking it out of you.
Oof.
Like exercising a demon type treatment. Kind of received both. And there might have been treatments. There might have been her family doing what they thought was best for her.
Yeah.
Because we feel sorry for her, it's very easy to see the family as the baddies. But we should keep in mind there are potentially 2 sides to a story.
Yes.
That's it. Come with me, if you will.
Must I?
This bit's not so bad.
Okay.
It's a little girl. She's asleep in bed. Her mother lies nearby and she can hear her breathing. It's quite comforting. Suddenly the room is full of flickering light. There are shouts from outside the tent. Juana can't work out what's going on. But someone grasps her arm and hauls her out of the tent. All around there are soldiers running about, grabbing weapons, getting into position. Juana's mother is shouting too. She's trying to get the attention of the soldiers, but they're preoccupied. They're under attack. They've no time for discussions. Suddenly her mother's voice cuts through the din. Calm down, all of you. We're not under attack. I just knocked my candle over and set fire to my bed. Juana wonders, and not for the first time, whether this was really a suitable place for a small child.
Oh, Isabella.
The worst mother in the world.
That's the trouble, isn't it? Because obviously, you know, and I remember you talking about this when you did her episode a while ago, you know, from a kind of girl boss perspective, there's her, you know, leading armies, taking all the things. But this is one of those occasions where actually, no, have a nanny and leave them at home.
Yes. Either you choose to be a stay-at-home mother, or sort out childcare. Childhood. Juana was born in Toledo on the 6th of November 1479 to Isabella of Castile and Ferdinand of Aragon, and she was the third of 5 children. Although we might not have much faith in Ferdinand's fatherliness when Juana was an adult, when his girls were small, he bought them dolls with clothes to put on, and he also pandered to their sweet teeth. Sweet tooths. I don't know, it just seems wrong. It sounds as if they're sharing teeth. I mean, it's a small thing compared to the other side of the scales, but later, when we look at what Ferdinand does, we can at least remember the girls' little faces lighting up as they got their dolls.
And at least it shows that, you know, he thought of making a point of doing that, as opposed to just, servants get them what they need.
Well, we don't know if he went out and got them. But,
no, I'm not saying he made them himself, but I mean, presumably he thought of saying, I'll make sure that they've got some nice dolls.
He probably ruined it by saying, I'm sorry, are you one of the legitimate ones? We heard in Isabella's episode that she was very keen for her daughters, as well as her son, to have a good education, and in fact all the girls of the court. So Juana learnt Latin and Catholic doctrine. So much Catholic doctrine.
Well, yeah.
Music and dancing and domestic skills like spinning, weaving, sewing and baking. And Michelle told us in Isabella's episode that baking was not so much baking as standing over your cook to make sure she wasn't secreting any sugar about her person.
Yes.
And then selling it on later, since it was very expensive.
I know that it was certainly either only the superior servants or occasionally the mistresses who got to do the special sugar spinning stuff. That's...
Apart from the suffering Juana will have witnessed being dragged to many of the major war zones in Spain, even at home, wherever that was at the time, she wasn't free of it. Isabella's taste in art tended to involve suffering of some sort.
Oh.
Particularly crucifixion. So the kids would have been surrounded by images of saints dying in horrific ways.
Oh, and lucky children. We're entering the Renaissance now, so the crucifixions aren't stylized like
they'll be
sort of
really
triumph.
realistic.
They're really gruesomely horrible. God, they're going to be back with those creepy life-size Jesus puppets that bleed.
Oh God, I hope they don't. I think Grunewald is around this time. Have you ever seen his crucifixion?
Yes, and I wish I hadn't.
Green. You see it in Colmar near Strasbourg. Yes, it's green and covered in little thorn prickles. Yes, it's very, very, very disturbing, but brilliant. Anyway, Joanna's tutor was Andres de Miranda. Not Mirandola, Miranda.
No, Miranda.
He was the one who told Ferdinand and Isabella that to allow even supposedly converted Jews to live with Catholics was risking the Catholics being infected. The analogy was rotten meat turning fresh meat rotten.
And this is the guy who's teaching their children. And we wonder why they ended up as such fanatics.
Juana wasn't a fanatic. I mean, both Juana and Catherine seemed considerably less fanatical than the older two. I don't know about Juan. You never hear anything about Juan.
No.
In England, the princes and princesses would get a court of their own. So Arthur was dispatched down to Ludlow. Henry and his sisters were at Eltham, Greenwich or Richmond. It was different in Spain, since the court was peripatetic. Juan and his sisters would have been allocated some people of their own, but they would have traipsed round after their parents, mainly to war zones. It's character building.
Yes, but what kind of character? That's what I always think when people say.
We're going to find out. In 1492, Juana and her brother and sisters accompanied Ferdinand and Isabella to the newly captured, or liberated, as they'd have said, city of Granada. Yeah, most families take their children to Disneyland, don't they?
I mean, even by the standards of the time, you'd think you've got one male heir. You think they'd have at least left Juan somewhere. They didn't know he was going to die young.
It's possible they did. As I say, we don't ever hear anything about him. I don't know where he is. I'll try and find out for next episode. And they take a lot of stuff with them. Just Juana's stuff required a convoy of mules. And what do you think? She's just one of 5 children, plus her parents and all the hangers-on. Every excursion would have required a town's worth of people just to transport it. Even when she was living with Ferdinand and Isabella, they employed her servants, they vetted them and rewarded them, and as such, their loyalty would have been for Juana's parents, not Juana herself, which you'd expect with a child.
Yeah.
The exception to this is 4 former slaves who were answerable to Juana and very loyal to her.
Yeah.
And she took them to Burgundy with her, which must have been a great comfort to her.
Yes.
You know, having people from home who actually owed their manumission to her, they had a lot to be thankful for, given that they were stuck in that position.
Yeah.
We'll find out what happens to them later.
Oh.
It's worth remembering when we see how restrictive her life in Burgundy was. Her life in Spain wasn't far off. When we might despair that she doesn't fight against it, it's all she's known. She's never had any agency.
Yes, gosh, and I suppose her closest companions are 4 formerly enslaved people.
Yes.
Who just...
who have no choice.
No. Yes, I mean, yes, they're not technically slaves anymore, but I mean, where are they going to go?
Yeah.
You know, it's not like they can get back home.
Well, we're going to have to find something. 1490, and Juana attended the ceremony of the proxy wedding between her eldest sister and Prince Afonso of Portugal, King João's son. However, after only 7 months, Isabella was back, after Afonso was thrown from his horse, as we heard in João's episode. And I found out a bit more about that. Apparently someone said to Afonso, "I'll race you to that tree." And they did.
Oh, no.
And that was that.
Oh.
Marriage to Philip. And this is, for better or for worse, this is the sort of defining point in her life.
Yeah.
Many of Juana's siblings had very short-lived marriages. 3 months each for Isabella and Afonso and Catherine and Arthur. 6 months for Juan and Margaret of Austria. Sadly, Juan and Philip's marriage dragged on and on and on.
Yeah.
They were married for 10 years. Why couldn't he have fallen off a horse? This was not the original marriage that had been mooted to cement Spain with the Low Countries. At first it was to be Maximilian marrying Isabel, the eldest daughter.
Oh.
But then he was told she'd been promised to Portugal, and so it was changed to Juana and Philip.
Oh no, it's another of those alarmingly sort of Habsburgy marriages, isn't it? Well, okay, so you can't marry one sister, but I'll tell you what, your son can marry another sister. It's just sort of so. Hang on, I'm marrying the sister of my father's fiance. Okay, I'm.
And meanwhile, your daughter is marrying our son.
Yeah, oh no.
The joint marriages of Juana and Philip and Juan and Margaret meant that Juana and Margaret's dowries cancelled each other out. I mean, Maximilian would have loved that.
Oh, yeah.
Instead, they were to receive annual incomes of 20,000 escudos, which were to come from their respective husbands' territories. Now, that's all very well if the husbands paid up. We do know that although Philip made sure that his wife was very presentable, he did also restrict her income. And we can infer that this must have started early on in their marriage, since Juana's people were starving, or so we're told.
Oof.
They fell ill because Juana couldn't afford to feed them. And they decided to get on the return fleet with Margaret of Austria rather than stay. But in fact, it was even worse than that. While they were waiting for Margaret to go back to Spain, apparently around 9,000 of them died of hunger.
What? How? I mean, A, that's horrific, and B, how many people came with them?
A lot. Juana got the blame for that. I mean, maybe there was more she could have done. I think the blame lies in several quarters here. Out of all her sisters, Juana was the only one not to marry a king or a prince. And Philip was just an archduke. It sounds posh.
Yeah.
This must have been an issue since a poet of the day described Philip as the king of the Romans. And obviously he wasn't. Maximilian was the king of the Romans. But it saved face all round.
Yeah.
It's got a proper title. What's an archduke, for goodness sake? It was also pointed out that she might be empress one day. So, all right, she's married a bit of rough now, but he has prospects.
Yes.
So. On the 22nd August 1496, Juana set out on a ship taking her to Burgundy. In fact, there were over 100 of them. Now, that's a proper fleet. That's not a fleetette. That's a fleet. Isabella was taking no chances. On board as well, although presumably not in the same boat as Juana, were 200 cattle, 1,000 chickens, and 4,000 barrels of wine. I can feel a sort of white ship disaster coming on. Why do they need 4,000 barrels of wine? I know there's a lot of people, but they're not going far, really, are they?
I mean, there are 100 ships, I suppose, so at least it's kind of spread around. But maybe it's just, I'm sorry, this is Maxim. He won't have good wine. He might have some beer. We don't drink beer. We're Spanish.
Yeah, that was an issue, yes. Certainly it was an issue when Philip was going the other way, because he didn't like wine. They were afraid of French attacks and pirates, but they were lucky enough to avoid that. But they did have to put into Portland, near Weymouth in England, for a while, to sit out a storm. And then they were shipwrecked on a sandbank just off the Burgundian coast. And I read that she lost some of her luggage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, she's lost quite a lot of her clothes and whatnot. My thought was, what happened to the 200 cattle and 1,000 chickens? Or what was left of them by then? When Juana finally made it to Burgundy, Philip was nowhere to be seen. He was in Germany. Now, it may be tempting to see this as the shape of things to come, but to cut him some slack here, he wasn't to know the exact date that she'd arrive, and he was at a meeting of the Diet on Lake Constance. Governing couldn't just stop because his wife was on her way.
Yeah.
And as soon as he heard that she'd arrived, he set off for home.
Okay.
Another less excusable reason for his no-show was that some of his advisers were very much against this marriage. Ferdinand and Isabella hadn't done their homework.
Oh.
Otherwise, they would have realised that there was a strong pro-France faction at the Burgundian court.
Yeah.
A marital alliance whose sole purpose was to crush the French was not popular. And just for a change, we can blame Maximilian. He set the marriage up because he did want to crush the French. Philip was in the strange position of obviously being his father's son, but also he had been raised by the States General of the Low Countries, who frequently didn't see eye to eye with Maximilian.
No.
Philip, as we've said, was in Germany for one of those interminable diets, but he had been told to go there by his advisers to get him away from Juana. Maybe if he wasn't get-atable, he wouldn't have to marry her.
Is it literally their plan? Just don't stop them from consummating it until someone can annul it. Come on, just keep it moving.
Well, they didn't know Philip then, did they?
No. Throw other women at him.
Well, we can see right from the get-go that Philip didn't want to marry Juana any more than Maximilian had wanted to marry Bianca Maria.
Oh.
And we see that once her own people went back to Spain, Juana was very alone. Because she represented a direction in which the Low Countries really didn't want to go. When Juana first arrived in Burgundy, she may have thought she'd died and gone to heaven. The Castilian court was austere. It's devout to the point of religious mania. Very strict decorum. The Burgundian court, it loved its court etiquette. You had to bow the right number of times, all that stuff. But other than that, it was much more fun-loving and laid-back and hedonistic than the atmosphere in which Juana had been brought up. And I get the feeling that, had the circumstances been different, Juana would have been much more like her younger sister than her two older ones. Because Isabella and Maria embraced the stultifying religiosity of the Spanish court and took it with them to Portugal. But I don't think Juana was like that.
No.
And it's probably significant there was never a standalone Burgundian Inquisition. Some of the Inquisition-y stuff spilled over into the Low Countries, but they never instigated one of their own.
That's interesting because, of course, the Low Countries, they're sort of between France that remained Catholic, but always a little bit at odds with the popes, and Germany, where lots of parts of it went Protestant. So it was always a lot of internal focus.
I think it's more German than French, really. Previous Duchesses of Burgundy, Isabella of Portugal, Margaret of York, had got out of court from time to time for a bit of spiritual solace when all that hedonism got too much for them. In Spain, the court was the spiritual hub, and then some. Maybe Juana found it all shocking, but she might have found it liberating after the expressive parenting of her mother.
Yes.
And politically, things were very different between the two courts. Isabella made it her business to push down the nobles. She'd done something of a Henry VII or João II. In Burgundy, Philip had been raised by the nobles. So the tables were completely reversed. Philip's nickname, before he became the Handsome, for reasons we can't quite fathom, was Croix Conseil, believer in counsel. In other words, someone who was eminently malleable by the council. Juana was quickly apprised of the situation by the pro-Spanish faction, to the extent that, although Philip organised a reception for her in Bruges, Juana went instead to Bergen-op-Zoom to visit a pro-Spanish family and celebrate the christening of their baby. Sort of hearts and minds stuff. And I wondered whether this was quite humiliating for Philip. He organises something for her, she doesn't turn up.
Yeah.
And I did wonder whether he might have thought, right, she's never doing that to me again.
Yeah, but then it showed that he wasn't really paying attention to, yes, come to Bruges where everyone hates you.
Well, she did go to Bruges as quickly as she could, but she fell ill with a fever in Antwerp and had to be taken to her bed for a few days. It's almost as if fate, with a capital F, is trying to prevent the marriage. Sadly, fate with a capital F fails with a capital F.
Yeah.
We've come across this several times in this podcast, that these political brides have it tough. They have to juggle the sometimes opposing demands of their parents and their husbands. And we saw it with Princess Margaret in Scotland, and more recently, Ivan the Great's daughter Elena, who married into Lithuania. I mean, that was the war between Russia and Lithuania kicked off almost immediately.
Yes. And of course, the whole Court Between Two Fathers episode on Catherine of Aragon.
It wasn't quite a war, but it's,
more sort of passive-aggressive.
Yes.
Well, I'm not paying for her. Well, I'm not paying for her.
Yeah, it's a bit like when I saw the other day 2 cars in a narrow lane, face to face, and neither of them were going to reverse. It wasn't quite so bad for Juana. I keep calling her Moana. Juana, in that at least the 2 countries didn't immediately go to war. But she was torn. Her parents had arranged the marriage on the basis that we all hate the French, and then when she arrived in Burgundy, she discovered they didn't hate the French at all. They didn't like the Spanish much, but they didn't hate the French. And then her parents were constantly haranguing her for not pushing the Spanish cause. Philip and Juana finally met in Lierre, which I seem to remember was Margaret of York's suggestion for the venue. And they met at a nunnery where Juana was staying, and Philip was so taken with her that, although the wedding wasn't until the 20th of October, he couldn't wait and wanted to consummate the marriage there and then. I mean, for a start, you're in a nunnery, Philip.
Yes. It's not quite sex with nuns, but sex amongst nuns.
Horrified nuns.
Well, I went in the room, just praying really loudly.
Louder than that, come on, louder than that. She's always been a sign that what great attraction there was between them, rather than that Philip just wanted to hump any woman who stood still long enough.
Well,
it's
yes.
not. We've come across Philip. The 2 Margarets, Austria and York, were there for the wedding, which is a bit much. I mean, Margaret of Austria is there enjoying the wedding. Meanwhile, Juana's entourage are starving to death on the coast, wondering when the hell this woman is going to turn up so they can get off back to Spain.
Oh.
Go, woman, go. When Juana arrived in Burgundy, she was accompanied by 109 Spanish people, including 11 religious folk and 9 nobles. Just 6 months later, there were only 16 Spaniards left. I don't mean they'd all died of starvation. They left for various reasons. All the positions in her court had been taken by Burgundians. I mean, it was either because, we've heard, it wasn't cost effective for them to stay. They had to leave if they wanted to be paid. But it was also because Philip got rid of them. And it was a concerted effort on his part. When Isabella of Castile heard about this, she was very concerned. She's very concerned all the time about Juana. I mean, I sort of feel for her. There's never a moment, if you've got kids, there's never a moment you're not worried about one or other of them. And for her, I think it's nearly always Juana.
Yes, well, yes, Isabella, but you see, you also need to make sure that your concern extends to... No, they'll always be safe if they're just with me, if I could just look after them. The grenades are falling on them, Isabella.
I think that is partly that, because, when they do come back to Spain, she's very reluctant to let go of them again. Yeah, she sent the Bishop of Catania to Flanders, quote, to ensure that the persons that the Archduchess took with her for her service are not ousted from her household, unquote. Well, it was a little late for that, unfortunately. And she certainly learnt her lesson from Juana's situation. When Catherine married Henry VIII, it was on condition that she could keep 150 of her own people with her. Don't start sending them back in dribs and drabs thinking I won't notice.
Yeah.
And interestingly, Maximilian waded in on Juana's side. He told her, quote, not to be defeated, unquote. He'd had experience of the Burgundians himself when they locked him in a spice depot and decapitated his jester.
Yeah.
Yeah. He promised to help her stop the Burgundians from taking over her court. But, surprise, surprise, nothing came of it.
No.
Many of the Castilians were just eased out, and many couldn't afford Burgundian prices. But many went because they were just shocked at the laxity of morals at the Burgundian court. Juana's tutor, Andres de Miranda, left for home for that reason. I think surely he should have stayed and protected Juana from the Burgundian loose morals. Instead of going, oh no, I can't take it, I'm going home. But you can imagine Isabella's horror when he arrived back in Spain and told her all about it. Philip's former governess became Juana's lady-in-waiting, and Philip's secretary became Juana's accountant. And those Spaniards who did manage to stay knew their place. Interestingly, they appear in the account books with Frenchified names. Their Iberianness has been etched out.
Mind you, in a way, you can see it from the Burgundian point of view. I mean, these are the people of Isabella and Ferdinand, and everyone knows already that Ferdinand is a shifty bastard. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. Everyone knows that Ferdinand is a shifty character.
I'll beep out the character.
We're not on Patreon now.
Yeah, and also, because Philip is his son, Maximilian can marry him off to whoever he likes.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to consult the Burgundian council. Philip and his advisors made sure it was them who rewarded the Spanish staff, not Juana, so that they'd know where to look for preferment.
Yeah.
He also did a very strange and manipulative thing. It's worthy of Ferdinand, this.
Oh dear.
He docked the wages of the Burgundian servants. Thus, in one stroke, he had kindled resentment towards the Spanish servants. And the Spanish were cut off from Spain, so their allegiance inevitably swayed towards Burgundy. So the Spanish are grateful, the Burgundians are incensed at the Spanish. Philip has got Juana's court just where he wants it.
Yeah. Oh dear.
We get reports from an envoy, Friar Thomas de Marienzo. He was sent over by Isabella, who tells us that right from the start, Philip was dominating Juana and she was rapidly feeling cowed in his presence. So this wasn't a slow grinding away of Juana's dignity and sense of self. Right from the start, Philip's saying, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
There was no honeymoon period.
Oh.
None of it where he was pretending to be lovely.
No.
He didn't allow her any control over the running of her household, which should have been her domain. He took over her finances, The marriage document had said that he should give her an annual allowance. He reneged on that, and instead he appointed people to look after all the expenditure. So she didn't have any money of her own to pay her servants. So either they left, or they just assumed that Philip was the one with the authority.
Yeah.
If you've got no money, you've got no authority. And it was customary for great ladies to marry the upper echelon staff to local nobles. Isabella of Portugal had done it, and we hear of Catherine of Aragon writing home to Dad to complain that she couldn't do it when she was in that limbo world between Arthur and Henry. And Juana couldn't do it either because of her financial restrictions. Over in Spain, Margaret of Austria was getting her 20,000 escudos a year. I mean, marriage didn't last a year, but she got the first payment. Juana's money was channeled through the Chambre des Comptes, and it was doled out to her on the whim of Philip, rather than being a right, which it should have been. It had been stipulated in the marriage agreement. So what were Ferdinand and Isabella doing about all this? We know that Ferdinand was refusing to help Catherine out because he said it was up to Henry. Were things any better for Juana? Again, they were insisting it was up to Philip to pay up, which it very much was.
Yeah.
But they did put together a fund to pay the expenses of the few Spanish people left with Juana and other people in the court who favoured Spain. I mean, the latter one could be seen as a bribe. But the funds were just to try and keep the servants loyal to Juana, not to Philip, and to keep them in Burgundy, so she's got at least somebody with her.
Yes, but even then, the money is coming from Ferdinand. I mean, if they could just give it to Juana to give to them, I mean, I'm sure she would have done, and that would have at least given her a bit more of a position there.
I don't know whether she'd been able to do it, though. She's watched.
That is true.
Well, Philip's way around this rather annoying marriage stipulation, and I presume we're really talking about the council here. I don't think Philip was bright enough to think of these things. He made Juana's allowance stem from taxes from various specific towns. So Ferdinand wrote to Philip to ask whether Juana would have authority over these towns, or was it just the revenue? In the end, it was neither. Philip had second thoughts, and the money went to the council instead. In fact, it went to specific members of the council.
Oh, right.
Where it rested permanently in their accounts. I think it went to sleep in their accounts, it rested for so long.
You see, I was picturing Philip as, being, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's clearly awful, but he's also clearly a kind of evil himbo. And the council are just sort of working through him, and they sort of actively dislike her for what she represents rather than who she is. Nobody seems to care about who she is as a person.
No, yeah. And it gets worse.
Yeah.
One book I read implied that this was entirely Philip, and that he was gaslighting Juana and keeping her from what was rightfully hers. Another book said it was Philip and the council, but mainly the council. But now then it seemed less like gaslighting, since that's what happens within a relationship. I'm not sure what you call it when it's a council who band together to abuse an archduchess. And I'm not sure which is worse.
Yeah.
A husband gaslighting his wife to obtain her money, or a council systematically using her money for bribes and kickbacks. I feel that it would be worse if it was just Philip, because that's more personal and cruel.
Yes. I think, unfortunately, it seems to be both, which is kind of the worst thing. Yeah,
I mean, either way, it has the same effect. So who is running this? And it's a bit like who's running the recognizance scam, Henry or Empson and Dudley. Who's running the Juana scam? Either it is Philip, or the council made certain that it looked as if it was coming from Philip. There's a document which, while assigning 2,600 livres to Juana and Philip's children, assigns nothing to Juana because Monsieur wants her to, quote, demande aide au pays, unquote, ask for aid from the people. So this to me sounds like someone who is piqued that his wife is more popular with the people than he is. Fine. Yeah. Let her ask her precious people for her money. Oh. She's so damn popular. But they always say, oh, Monsieur wants this, Monsieur wants that. I don't know. Either it's true or it's them channeling what they're doing. through this monsieur.
Yeah.
She wasn't completely penniless. It was important that she looked the part. So she was given the odd handout, quote, at her good pleasure, unquote. Well, obviously it was really at Philip's good pleasure because she didn't have any choice in it. But it made sure that she didn't let him down in public. I mean, she scrubbed up well. She had lots of clothes and jewellery and things. Thomas de Matienzo tried to alert Ferdinand and Isabella to her plight. Quote, I believe that she will always remain needy and her servants dying of hunger, and thus it will continue until your highnesses take action, unquote. I don't know whether dying of hunger is literal or a idiom.
Either way, it doesn't sound positive.
No. I remember they're getting similar missives from Catherine complaining about her financial straits. But at least she could pawn parts of her dowry, even if she wasn't meant to.
Yeah.
Juana didn't have a dowry. However, de Matienzo, who appears quite heroic up to this point, definitely siding with Juana, he plummets.
Oh no.
We know that he's being paid by Philip since we have his name on a list. And from that moment on, he says nothing about Juana's problems. He's been bought off. Juana must have looked at her siblings. Isabella and Maria both had very happy marriages with Manuel of Portugal. Juan was in love with Margaret, although it's quite short-lived. Catherine was very happy with Henry for the first few years. So Juana must have thought, well, marriage doesn't have to be like this. So why is mine like this?
It's probably Maximilian's constantly droning on about how wonderful his first marriage was. And even Margaret of York and Charles the Bold somehow seemed to get on despite their very different personalities.
Well, they managed that by never seeing each other.
Yeah, true.
There was nothing Juana could do about it, and no one left who could help her. Friar Thomas said he saw sparks of protest when Juana was given some papers to sign to agree to some payment that she'd known nothing about. And she said, quote, be it so for this year, but next year I desire that they do not make grants without my consent, unquote. But sadly, she didn't make that comment until everyone was safely out of the room. Friar Thomas said in his report, I think it will always be the same thing, unquote. So there'll always be a next year. Philip insisted that his old governess, Madame de Elevin, would be Juana's lady-in-waiting, rather than the Spanish woman that Juana had wanted. And she was related to Philippe de Comines, I discovered when I looked into her. Friar Thomas said that this woman had, quote, so much intimidated her that she dare not lift her head, unquote. And we thought Elvira was bad.
Yes. Oh well, so much for a bit of female solidarity to help her out.
No. But as is often the case with these gaslighting relationships, anyone viewing them from the outside would have had no idea that anything was wrong. Both Philip and Juana kept up the facade. And it's, as I said, it's not as if he didn't give her things. He gave her clothes and jewels and fine horses because standards had to be maintained. Filled their other duties. Children came quite easily. Juana's tutor, de Miranda, wrote to her, quote, I trust God to deliver you and guard you well, and that you will give birth to a son, because God was asked to give you an offspring, and that it be a son. Write to me then, so that I may offer him to God. Unquote. So, no pressure. The first child was a girl, Eleanor. Philip hadn't wanted a girl, and he wouldn't pay anything for little Eleanor's upkeep.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Quote, the Archduchess may provide for the places of the household as the attendants for the child, because it is a daughter. When God grants us a son, I shall provide for the household, unquote.
Well, maybe if the Archduchess had any money, Philip, of her own.
Yes, yeah. Well, there were jousts to celebrate the birth. He could afford that. And Eleanor, if you remember our trip to Portugal, was King Manuel's wife number 3.
Oh, yes.
That's the good thing about these Habsburgs. You know, what goes around comes around. Yeah. Juana did better the second time, as she knew her duty, and Charles was born in 1500. Margaret of Austria, back in Burgundy now after the death of her husband, suggested they call the boy Juan. Philip doesn't seem to have thought much of that idea. It was Charles, named after Grandad, Charles the Bold. Mm. But he did treat Juana better just after the birth of the son. He gave her some presents and was actually a bit nicer to her. She'd done her duty.
Yeah.
Ferdinand and Isabella couldn't understand why Juana wasn't using her status to further the Spanish court, because they didn't seem to understand the situation. I mean, she hasn't got any status.
No.
They sent Fuensalida to sort this out. And we've come across him before. He was the most undiplomatic diplomat.
Oh.
He reported telling Juana, quote, to make a greater role in the governance of her estate. And it seemed to me that she should no longer countenance these people, by which he means the Burgundians, since they had no manners at all, unquote. When I first read that, I assumed he meant the Burgundian people as a whole, which is just plain rude. Mm-hmm. But I presume he means the Burgundian Council, for which you might have a point. Juana did use pillow talk to try and get her point across to her husband. He was apparently willing to listen when they were alone, quote, because she knows that he loves her, unquote. But then she discovered he was reporting everything she said to the Archbishop of Besançon, who was notoriously pro-French.
Oh, dear.
So she began to suspect that Philip was just pumping her for any information she was getting from her parents. Fuensalida reckoned that the Archbishop was the eminence grise. Quite possibly everything that had gone on could be tracked back to him. Mm. And Fuensalida said that Philip didn't even eat unless the Archbishop told him to. That was probably an exaggeration or possibly an idiom. But yeah, it's interesting that there seems to be a hierarchy of manipulation.
Though I suppose Fuensalida might have thought, well, he's the pro-French person, so obviously it's all about the French, really. Because they all seem to not really think of the Burgundians as their own people so much as a constant football back and forth.
Yeah. We're coming across quite a lot of male baddies in these episodes.
Yeah.
Over in Spain, Juana's brother Juan had died a few months earlier. And we have Juana's accounts showing that she bought black cloth for herself and all her servants. And she went into deep mourning. And the Spanish knew how to mourn. They were brilliant at mourning. Philip, on the other hand, immediately started calling himself the Prince of Asturias. And he sought French support for his claim to the Spanish throne. Now, this is odd, because Juana's elder sister, Isabella, is still alive, and she's Queen of Portugal. So where did Philip get the idea that he should succeed?
Yeah, I mean, he ends up being right, but that's rather...
But several people have to die first. When Ferdinand and Isabella heard what he'd been up to, they reiterated their desire that Isabella and Manuel should succeed. Because he's the good son-in-law. He's the one that got all the Jews out of Portugal. Oh. I mean, admittedly, there were an awful lot of new Christians there all of a sudden. But then both Isabella of Portugal and her little boy, Miguel, died. And Ferdinand and Isabella called Juana and Philip back to Spain to take up their roles as heirs to the throne. In the French court, the Archbishop of Besançon wasn't at all keen for Philip to go. And according to Fuensalida, he was afraid that once they weren't in direct contact, the Archbishop might lose control of the Archduke. Mm. He also said the Burgundian Council were afraid of much the same thing. And they were also afraid that Philip might favour Spain over Burgundy once he got the crown on his head. Well, so he's coming across as everyone's puppet, isn't he? Well, they couldn't go yet because Juana was pregnant. Philip probably wished they hadn't really bothered because it was only a girl. Oh. After Isabella's birth, because God knows we need more Isabellas, no. Philip and Juana were able to travel to Spain to claim their right as heirs to the throne of Castile, or at least Juana's right to the throne. This meant leaving the children behind. I think one of them is very little. Mm-hmm. Juana wrote to her mother to send someone to look after the children, but she didn't get her own way. The councillors, who'd isolated Juana, now chose who should look after her children. And the kids were sent to Margaret of York at Mechlin,
Ah.
I tried to find out what Margaret's role was in all of this.
Yeah.
Did she play any part in the isolation of Juana? It seems not, but I couldn't find any evidence that she helped her at all.
Because, I mean, she seemed to get on very well with the rest of the family, but I suppose she had been sort of eased out of the frontline politics by this point.
Yeah. She'd even had to give up Perkin. 3 years previously, in 1498, Philip had signed the Treaty of Paris with Louis XII. Philip agreed to perform liege homage for Flanders and Artois and to give up his duchy of Burgundy. In exchange, he would get the towns of Aire, Bethune, and Edin. And it was said to have been a ploy by the Burgundian council to drive a wedge between Philip and both Ferdinand and Isabella and his father Maximilian, to divide and rule. But it does seem extraordinary, though, because doesn't Philip get his title from Burgundy?
Yeah.
He's the Archduke of Burgundy.
Yeah.
Ferdinand and Isabella insisted they come to Spain by sea. Almost as an act of deliberate contrariness, Philip decided they should go through France. And this would entail meeting the king. It was intentional. Louis and Philip had already decided that baby Charles should marry Claude, the daughter of Louis. No one thought to ask Juana what she thought of this. Or indeed Anna Brittany, for that matter. Philip had said he'd like to meet his future daughter-in-law, and Louis had said, well, yeah, drop in on your way to Spain. All sorted. Obviously, Ferdinand and Isabella were not pleased. Philip tried to placate them by paying Juana's Spanish servants their back pay that had been long awaited. Rather cringingly, the message he sent to the Chambre des Comptes, telling them to release the money, said, quote, "We wish to pay certain persons of the Spanish nation in the household of our very loved and powerful companion, the Archduchess," unquote.
Also, thanks, Philip. You will pay them what they've been owed for ages.
You're a saint. He also increased the numbers in Juana's retinue. Now, am I being cynical if I say this was to impress Louis, or was it maybe increasing the number of people who could keep an eye on Juana, making sure she behaved while they were in France?
Honestly, I wouldn't put anything past Philip the Handsome.
Terrible, terrible man. When they entered Paris, there were huge receptions for them. Juana then went on to Blois, where the royal family were, but Philip hung about in Paris for a few days. Apparently there were a few, quote, flirtatious maidens, unquote. Not maidens for long, I don't think.
No. Oh, Lord. I know it's completely anachronistic, but I'm just picturing Philip. Yeah, you hurry on to Blois, dear. I'm just going to go to the Folies Bergère.
I'm just going to I'm going to take a look around the Louvre. That's what I'm doing. Well, maybe it wasn't as sleazy as it sounds. Philip and Juana arrived at Blois at the same time, so maybe Philip just couldn't bear to travel at the speed that Juana travelled at. As Philip entered the king's presence, he bent down on his knee 3 times, something that Louis had insisted on. And every time Louis would leap up and doff his cap, which must have made for quite a bizarre little dance they were both doing. As Louis had insisted Philip should bow, he wouldn't let Juana curtsy and leapt up to embrace her before she could. So Philip must have been seething at this. It's just hammered home the fact he's just an archduke while she's on her way to becoming Queen of Castile. When Juana was asked if she would kiss the king, she turned to her advisor, the Bishop of Cordoba, and said, I don't know, what do you think? Do you think I should? A lot of whispering went on. The bishop thought a kiss would be okay and wouldn't compromise her soon-to-be royal standing. Juana asserted her independence by refusing to be part of the vassalage that Philip had signed up to in the Treaty of Paris. Fine, you bow and scrape to this man. I will not. Then there was a run-along little lady moment as Juana was dispatched to see the Queen, accompanied by Anne de Beaujeu.
I keep forgetting Anne de Beaujeu is still around during the reign of Louis XII.
Yeah, she's just mooching.
God, if you were already feeling a bit nervous, and then in walks Anne de Beaujeu.
Yes. I see Anna Brittany as being quite a smiley, cuddly person. I don't know why. Not Anna Brittany.
No.
There she met her future daughter-in-law, or so they thought at the time. In fact, it didn't pan out. Little Claude took one look at Juana and burst into tears and had to be taken away.
Ooh.
Juana was able to make some protests, since she hadn't wanted to go through France. It had been drummed into her from a very early age they were the natural enemy of Spain. She insisted on wearing her Spanish clothes, and she spoke to Anna Brittany as an equal. Because Anne was Queen of France, Juana was going to be Queen of Spain.
Yeah.
In fact, the following day, Queen Anne gave Juana some money to present in the Queen's name at Mass, and Juana said, "No, I'm not your vassal. I'll give my own money."
Yeah.
Philip was given money to present in Louis's name, and he did. But then he had signed the Treaty of Paris.
Yes. Juana seems to be feeling a little bit more liberated now. Hang on. I'm actually going to be Queen of Spain. You're going to be my consort, and you're bowing and scraping. Okay. Unfortunately, I can also see him going, "Just you wait till I get you home."
Yes, yeah. Maybe it's the closer she gets to Spain, the better she feels. In Queen Anne's retinue was one Germain de Foix.
Oh.
Little was Juana to know that she was meeting her future stepmother.
Yes.
Juana was about 22 at this stage, making Germain about 13.
Oh, I'd forgotten just quite how much younger than
Yes.
Germain
Oh,
was.
yes. Louis was so pleased with this visit that he dreamt of making peace with Spain. Once Philip was on the throne. No reason why not. In the Spanish court, an incident in the city of Burgos rather put a damper on things as they made their way from France to Spain. The city guards mistook them for an invading army and slammed the gates in their faces.
Oh.
They had to do a bit of negotiating. No, we're not.
Well, if you will bring quite so many servants.
Yes. When they reached Madrid, Philip and Juana joined in the Spanish national pastime of sponsoring the baptism of Muslim and Jews. Philip also enjoyed a bullfight, which doesn't surprise me in the least.
No. God, it's a terrible moment when oh, thank goodness we have got away from. We're now just on animal cruelty as opposed to kind of cultural destruction and forced baptism.
I don't know. It's symptomatic. Philip went down with a bout of smallpox, and Ferdinand rushed to his bedside. When Philip recovered, Ferdinand entered Toledo under Philip's golden canopy, leaving Juana to follow on as best she could.
Oh.
Ferdinand concentrated on Philip rather than Juana, which seems like a bit of a snub. But in fact, that was his job. He was king consort of Castile, as was Philip, later. It was up to Isabella as queen to welcome the future queen.
Yes.
So they both had their roles.
And I suppose because Ferdinand's from Aragon, where they won't accept a female ruler, he's also kind of got one eye on, well, I know he never does become, but you're sort of the heir to Aragon now.
Yeah. The meeting with the in-laws did not go down well. Philip flaunted his pro-French stance, and this worried Ferdinand and Isabella, since it was obvious to them that even though Juana would be queen, and Philip just the consort, that was not how Philip saw it. And the pro-French stance would be the direction in which Spain would be taken. I wondered if Philip had contempt for Ferdinand for allowing himself to be an equal footing with Isabella, or a lower footing, really. What sort of man would accept the role of king consort? No. Not a real man, obviously.
Oh.
Not the sort of men who watch bullfights.
Oh.
The reports Isabella had been getting back from Friar Thomas had worried her, but she'd comforted herself with the thought that in Burgundy, Juana was only the consort. When she was Queen of Spain, maybe things would be different. But now that she saw Philip and Juana together, she began to doubt Juana's strength to stand up to Philip. But Isabella clung to the idea that she could remould both Juana and Philip. And with this in mind, she tried to persuade them to stay in Spain indefinitely. Well, that didn't suit Philip. As far as he was concerned, once they'd been ratified as heir by the Corteses of Castile and Aragon, they might as well head for home. And for someone with aspirations to be King of Spain, he saw no reason to learn Spanish or get to know Spanish customs, apart from the bullfight. Relations between Philip and the in-laws weren't helped by the fact that when some Castilians attacked some people in Philip's retinue, Isabella pardoned them. I don't think she actually put them up to it.
No.
I don't think it reached quite that levels, but not far. Philip and Juana's succession was ratified by the Cortes in Castile, so then they travelled to Aragon, accompanied by Ferdinand, to repeat the process there. Juana would become Queen of Aragon, with Philip as consort. I'm not quite sure how she managed to do that, unless, of course, Ferdinand fathered a son.
Yes.
Ferdinand was a bit wily here. It's not like him, is it? He left Juana and Philip in Aragon, saying that he had to leave because Isabella was ill. So Philip was left to preside over a council which was voting for funds for a war against France. And Ferdinand would have been aware of that.
Yeah. Well, just make sure you have to rubber stamp this, and then might just get a little letter leaked to Louis XII.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Burgundians were behaving appallingly by this time. They were acting more like an invading army than a diplomatic mission. When the Archbishop of Besançon died, Philip accused the Spanish of poisoning him and said, right, that's it, I'm going home. I don't think there were many saying, oh, no, Philip, no.
Oh, this is his very pro-French Archbishop, isn't it? So, well, to be fair...
I noticed how often I say in these podcasts, he was accused of poisoning them. But actually, on this occasion, they might have had a point. I think we could assume that every time someone's accused of poisoning, they probably did. Apart from Philip accusing them, I don't think anybody else thought so. And so he was off, leaving Juana behind because she was pregnant again. Isabella tried to keep him in Spain by saying that Juana would die of sorrow if he were to leave her. And I think that shows that reactions to love and grief that now we might consider way over the top were quite normal at that time.
Yeah.
We might remember that when we come to Juana's reaction when Philip dies.
Yeah.
Philip left anyway, leaving instructions with his people that they were to make sure that no more servants were to be allowed into Juana's retinue. He was worried that Isabella would do what he had done and fill Juana's court with people who would feed her with propaganda, but Isabella's propaganda and not his. And he was right to be worried, since Isabella introduced 69 new people into Juana's entourage. In a way, it all made it easier for Isabella. If she could persuade Juana to stay away from the malevolent influence of Philip, she might be able to make a decent queen-in-waiting of her. Juana gave birth to another boy, Ferdinand. And although we're told that Juana was excessively fond of Philip, she actually waited another year before deciding to leave.
Yeah.
I mean, that could well have been she didn't want to leave baby Ferdinand, because she'd already had her influence on all her other children stripped away.
Yeah.
But sadly, it doesn't seem to have been that, since she was asking her mother, almost from the moment the baby Ferdinand was born, if she could go back to Burgundy, and Isabella kept preventing it.
And we know how bad her time has been in Burgundy, so...
It's frustrating. I mean, I'm sure everyone's talked to people, and you just think the relationship you're in is so toxic and so awful. And they're saying, no, but he's not like that at home, and all these things. I think, oh, God, please get out. Although Philip had left, he began to worry. He'd left his wife in the company of a very forceful queen who obviously didn't like him. And he didn't want Juana getting any funny ideas. Poor Juana, she's completely torn. She had two very domineering characters, both insisting she stay with them. Isabella's health was already failing, so she worried that if she were to train her daughter in the art of governing, she would need to get on with it. And yet Juana kept whinging on about wanting to go home. This is Juana, spent quite a lot of time in the monastery of Reja. She bequeathed them the relics from the 11,000 virgin martyrs that Pope Alexander had given her in 1500. Now, the book I was reading left it at that, but I wanted to know more. 11,000 is a large number of virgin martyrs. The story is that St. Ursula was travelling with 11,000 English women from the Somerset area when they were massacred in Cologne by Huns for refusing to have sex with them. I read a fair amount about this story before I thought, hang on a minute, this has got nothing to do with Juana. But suffice to say, there may not have been 11,000.
Well, I'm just thinking, I mean, considering...
There may have been 11.
Yeah, the population size of Somerset in that era, I mean, that would have been every woman from the southwest.
Well, especially since a lot of Somerset was underwater at that time. And still is intermittently. Juana had little Ferdinand in Spain, but she had Charles, Eleanor and Isabella in Burgundy. So, I mean, it's about Sophie's choice.
Oh, no.
Isabella tried to persuade her at least to postpone the journey until relations with France were better, because it's a dangerous journey. Juana's reaction? She refused to eat, she refused to talk, she refused to sleep. She stood out in the rain for hours until 2 a.m. When Isabella confronted her, Juana replied, quote, with disrespectful words which I never would have tolerated but for the condition she was in, unquote. And we're not sure what she meant by condition.
Yeah.
I mean, she's wet. We know that. She's wet and hungry.
Yes.
Juana made several attempts to leave, on one occasion bribing a captain to sail her away, but he told Ferdinand of her intentions. She's thwarted by everybody and everything, all the time. Isabella sent the Bishop of Cordoba to try and persuade Juana to stay, but Juana, very effectively, told the bishop where to go. And he stormed off, and she realised she'd made a big mistake and sent a servant after him, but he refused to come back. I think she thought, actually, he was on my side.
Yes.
Juana is very much a do first and think later sort of person, which gets her into a lot of trouble. Mm-hmm. Isabella didn't know what to do, so eventually she relented and let Juana go, because Juana's behaviour was endangering the health of both of them, since Isabella was already suffering from the disease that would kill her the following year. Isabella wrote to Philip, quote, granting them the full authority to hold her and restrain her in the things that her passion can make her do, unquote. This is really not the thing to say to a man whose natural propensity is towards control. You have my permission to restrain my daughter.
They're both so controlling, aren't they? I think it's Philip and Isabella are so domineering, and then you have her deeply manipulative father, who isn't so obvious. But
not yet. No, he's coming across as really quite nice. Isabella seems to have feared for her daughter's mental health. Otherwise, why would she have granted Philip that right? Burgundy said how sad they were that Juana had crossed a line with her mother, but said it was probably due to her love for Philip. I don't know what Isabella said to that.
Well, maybe it's because she wants to see her children.
Back in Burgundy. Juana had been looking forward to seeing her husband again, but when she got back to Burgundy in May 1504, she discovered that his interest now rested elsewhere. And I don't mean that he's taken up backgammon or anything like that, unfortunately.
No, what was her name?
Started knitting. I don't know her name. I know she was blonde. That's all I know about her. Juana tried some of the tactics that had worked on her mother, but Philip was having none of it. He didn't bother him if she didn't eat or sleep or got wet. In fact, Juana was just falling into the trap of providing him with plenty of examples when he wanted to claim that she was mad. She even attacked the woman that Philip had been bedding, or she threatened to chop off her golden locks. That's why I know she was blonde. It's not quite the same thing. I mean, attacking somebody and saying, well, I'm going to cut all her hair off, not the same thing.
No.
We hear, apparently, Philip raised his hand to her, which at least implies he hadn't done so before, since we're told of it on this occasion.
But I mean, he didn't need to. He was depriving her of funds and controlling who was around her.
I think he got angry.
Yeah.
Perhaps he's not angry usually, he's just manipulative. Their relationship went from bad to worse. Juana had some Moorish former slaves that we met before, which Babsali gave her a link with home. I mean, it's not their home, but it links her with her own home. They had been with Juana since her childhood. Philip said he didn't want anyone of Muslim descent in his court, and he told his wife to dismiss them. And in fact, he sent a message via the quartermaster of Juana's chamber, de Rada, to tell her that Philip would not visit her again until those slaves had gone. And I presume it's visit in inverted commas. Juana retaliated by dismissing de Rada and telling him to get out of the Low Countries on pain of death. Philip sealed Juana's doors. He stationed 12 archers just outside her bedroom.
Oh, that escalated quickly.
She spent an entire night hammering on the doors. She refused to eat anything until she saw him again. A few days later, Fuenzalida reported that Philip had dismissed 12 of Juana's servants, including the 4 former slaves, and her confessor. He then refused to pay her any money at all. Philip made sure that news of Juana's behaviour got back to Ferdinand and Isabella. And Isabella must have been terrified she was leaving her country in the hands of a madwoman and a man she didn't trust. But even from her sickbed, Isabella was able to wreak her revenge on her son-in-law while trying to keep her daughter safe. She added a codicil to her will, and I'll quote it in full, it's quite important. Quote, "It may chance that, at the time when our Lord shall call me to this life, the Princess Donna Juana, Archduchess of Austria, Duchess of Burgundy, my very dear and beloved firstborn daughter," well, second actually, but who's counting, "heiress and lawful successor to my kingdoms, lands and signories, may be absent from them, or, after having come to them and stayed in them for some time, may be obliged to leave them again, or that, although being present, she might not like or might be unable to reign and govern. If such were the case, it would be necessary to provide that the government should nevertheless be carried on," unquote. So why did Isabella write this? The prescient part of it is that Juana might not be there, or if she is, she might not like or be able to reign or govern. There are several interpretations. One, she saw Juana's behaviour firsthand, and she was getting reports from Philip, and maybe Isabella genuinely thought Juana didn't have the mental capacity to govern.
Yeah.
Or two, she'd been getting worrying reports that Juana was letting her religion slip a bit. Despite Friar Thomas reassuring her that Juana was attending Mass and doing everything she was meant to be doing, Isabella feared that Spain under Juana might not be as rabidly Catholic as it had been under her. Maybe she was using her 2 daughters, who were religious fanatics, as we saw in King Manuel's episode, as exemplars of what good Catholic women should be. And 3, Isabella had seen for herself how Philip treated Juana. Without that clause in the will, Isabella would have been effectively handing over the crown straight to Philip.
Yeah.
She was saying that Juana might not be able to govern because Philip wouldn't give her a look in. She was just there to sign documents that she had no input to, as she'd done throughout her married life. Also, knowing that Philip didn't think much of Spain, when they came to their succession rights, would Philip just head straight back to Burgundy on becoming king, in inverted commas, taking Juana with him and leaving Spain to its own devices? Well, possibly not. I don't think it was Spain that Philip disliked. It was Isabella. Stated there may be circumstances in which Juana would be unable to rule. What was Isabella going to do about it? Well, back to the will. Quote, "I have directed and ordained in my testimonial and will that in each of the aforementioned cases, the king, my lord," that's Ferdinand, "shall reign, govern, and administer the said kingdoms, lands, and dominions, and have the government and administration of them, instead of, and in the name of the princess, our daughter, until my grandson, the Infante Don Carlos, firstborn son and heir of the said princess and her husband, Prince Philip, has attained the age required by the law for governing and reigning in these kingdoms, and has at least accomplished his 20th years," unquote. Well, Don Carlos is 4, so she's offering Ferdinand quite a long regency.
Yes.
So what a slap in the face for Philip.
Yeah.
She added another clause which said that even if Juana was able to rule, she and Philip should obey Ferdinand in all things, quote, as good and obedient children, unquote.
Are we sure that Ferdinand wasn't writing this just at Isabella's bedside?
And they should give me lots of chocolates. I can't see Philip accepting that arrangement. Ferdinand wrote to Burgundy to warn them that Isabella was dying and that Philip and Juana should prepare to head for Spain as soon as possible. And this shows how much Fuenzalida, from having been sympathetic to Juana, had had enough of her by this point. He told Philip. He didn't tell Juana. He didn't say Mum's dying.
Oh.
Ferdinand had to write to him and say, remember who is actually the heir, and also remember your place.
Yeah.
But Isabella must have thought that her fragile, much put upon daughter would be safe in the loving paternal embrace of her father. And you might say she was right, because Ferdinand, immediately after Isabella's death, on the same day, he went to the marketplace in Medina del Campo and said, I'm no longer king of Castile, I'm handing it over to Juana and Philip. So that's all sorted. He then wrote to Juana saying, come and get your country. Juana was 26. Apart from watching how her mother operated as she was growing up, she'd had no training in governing, and things were not going to be made easy for her.
No.
Philip, when he heard of Isabella's death, immediately set the wheels in motion. His councillors planned to raise the sword of justice and the Castilian coat of arms over the altar in Brussels. Philip would then be given the sword to raise, and there would be a composition by Josquin de Pré.
Oh, hello.
Philippius Rex Castiliae.
Wow, they're not even pretending.
No, it would be Philip raising the sword, since they thought, well, Juana probably wouldn't be there because she was pregnant. She was there, and she did join Philip at the altar, but the sword was still handed to Philip. So, at least as far as Burgundy was concerned, Philip was now king of Castile.
Yeah.
But what ought to make it easier all round is that Juana sent a letter to the Spanish ambassador in Birmingham, Burgundy. In Burgundy to say, it's okay, I don't want to rule anyway. I want my husband to do it. So, problem solved. Except that it wasn't Juana who wrote the letter. No. It was Philip, and he forged her signature. He tried to get her to sign it, but she refused, since it said, quote, no one should rule her kingdom but the king, her husband, whom she loved very much, unquote. And apparently she took issue with the word love.
Oh. Oh, there's been a change.
There has. A message from Ferdinand that was meant for Juana's eyes only was delivered to Philip. And this told of Ferdinand's intention to take over the ruling of Castile, and it asked Juana for a mandate to rule. And I'm not sure if this is a temporary one, until they get there. But this is despite the fact that back in Spain, he just announced to the Cortes that she was as mad as a box of cane toads, and so couldn't rule. So, a little sneaky.
Yeah. What?
A little sneaky.
What? Ferdinand being manipulative? I couldn't possibly imagine that.
No. Philip's reaction, he tightened control over Juana's household to make sure she had no contact with Ferdinand, and he insisted that all her servants were answerable to him and not her. Fuenzalida, who had got annoyed with Juana, I think when she was starving herself and banging on the door, he thought, well, for goodness sake. He now reported back to Ferdinand that all her servants were, quote, relatives of Judas, unquote. They'd all turned against her. Oh. And you can hardly blame them. There were those 12 archers stationed outside Juana's bedroom door, keeping them away. When someone was allowed to see her, she attacked him with an iron bar, calling him a traitor. So she's falling straight into Philip's plans to tell everyone he only did what he did because she was mad.
I mean, I'm not endorsing attacking people with iron bars, but you could kind of see why she might have done it whilst still being fairly mentally stable. at this
I
point.
keep thinking of the phrase, mad, I'm bloody furious.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's what it meant this whole time. Joanna the Furious.
Yes, quite right too. But after that, obviously no one dared visit her because she might attack them with a metal bar. Ferdinand wrote a list of grievances against Philip and sent it to him, saying that if he didn't improve his treatment of Juana, Ferdinand would publish the list. Amongst other outrages, Ferdinand said that Philip was keeping Juana in her room under armed guard. And Philip said it's not true. It's not true. She prefers not to see anyone. She's just antisocial. Doesn't want to see anyone.
And those 12 archers? Oh, they're decorative.
They're the band. On 24th of August 1505, Maximilian rolled into town, determined to sort out their marital problems.
Oh, because anything could be made better by the arrival of Maxie. Oh, no.
Especially marital problems.
Oh, no. Chaos agent Maximilian himself.
The best thing to do is ignore her, I found, yes. Now, whatever life was like for them behind closed doors, if they were ever together, obviously, when they were in public, Juana was always the gracious and thoroughly normal archduchess, leaving people to wonder what all the fuss is about. And next week, we'll find out just what all the fuss was about.
Oh. Right.
This is the best episode.
Oh, no.
As far as misery goes, this is the best one.
She just needed a single person in her life she could trust. Just a single person who wasn't trying to dominate her or control her or... I don't know, did she... Maybe... Did she write to Catherine of Aragon? You kind of feel like they would have got on.
They certainly wrote later, where, especially when Catherine was trying to extol the virtues of Henry as a loving husband. But, yes. Well, as we'll see, things are about to get worse.
Look, she's an important figure to cover, and it's important that her story be told.
It's a sad one, though.
So everyone...
It's a desperately sad one.
Listening to this, this is good for you.
Yeah, I mean, history is red in tooth and claw, isn't it? I mean, it's grim.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh. But, equally, we couldn't possibly do, episodes on all these other people in her life and not on her.
Oh, we've got to do her. And she has a fascinating life. As seen from the outside. Not very interesting from her angle.
Yes. Anyway.
More of that next week when we will be going to Spain.
Yes. Not as nice as it sounds.
No, I think we decided the Isle of Wight and Ipswich are only the only two places that are as nice as they sound.
Why not, after this, why not go and listen to one of our more jolly cameos from
Yes.
the
I'll go and listen to an episode of Grim Reading. That always cheers me up.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun. Yes, not Lean Lisa. Don't listen to Lean Lisa.
Listen to clever.
Clever Gretel. Clever Gretel would be an
nice
excellent one. Yes,
yeah.
Lean Lisa would be too much like repeating itself.
Yeah, that's your homework. Go and listen to Clever Gretel.
And until next time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Before we go, we've had a lot of distressing detail about gaslighting. Sometimes it's hard to recognise if you're being gaslighted. Each individual event seems quite petty, and your partner may point out just how petty it is, but the cumulative effect can be devastating. I got this from the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It's a list of things to look out for that indicate that a relationship is severely wrong. You constantly second-guess yourself. You ask yourself, am I too sensitive? Several times a day. You often feel confused and even crazy. You're always apologising to your partner. You frequently make excuses for your partner's behaviour to friends and family.
You find yourself withholding information from friends and family so you don't have to explain or make excuses. You know something is terribly wrong, but you can't quite express what it is, even to yourself. You start lying in order to avoid the put-downs and reality twists. You have trouble making simple decisions. You have the sense that you used to be a very different person, more confident, more fun-loving, more relaxed. You feel hopeless and joyless. You feel as though you can't do anything right, and you wonder if you're a good enough partner. If any of these seem familiar, call a helpline, talk to a friend, think about getting the hell out of there, but please do something. Don't find yourself in the same situation as Juana.